Hey Tony, it's Friday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, um, that's kind of a hard question. I'm not an experienced Masks game master. In fact, like that, the game last week was the first time I'd ever run a Mask game. But from being in many games, I think the advice I will give to you to for your GMing is don't try and plan too much. Like create an adventure hook, create an ability in which like all of the characters get to deal with their playbook's thing. Like a good example is what I did with Piper, in which even though time hadn't necessarily passed, I wanted to give Theo a really good chance to work with her on the Janice's whole shtick of you have a mundane, you have a secret identity, and you have obligations your secret identity has to go through. And so I wanted to kind of bring that into play because it allowed for a lot of good roleplay. Like when he kept turning down, or when Piper kept turning down your um, Tailwind's asking to we need to go to Sentinel HQ. I liked that because it helps add to conflict between the players, and I like that part of the Janus playbook because you have those obligations, and superhero is not necessarily your main gig, or maybe it is, and that's the whole conflict between it. So like I tried to do a lot of things like that. Like I tried to involve for Tailwind, I tried to involve his mentor. For Cookie, I tried to bring up a lot of interactions with like the fact that she's not from this planet, and I tried to interact with Blackout's entire like family legacy type thing. So like that's my big advice is see what you can do to make sure the playbook's main thing gets involved, and otherwise just let the roleplay run wild. Like let the players make their decisions and make there be consequences for those decisions. Even on a successful roll, make sure there are consequences. Because that's one of the beauties about Masks is the fact that every single action has a consequence, even if you succeed completely. And I really just like the way the game kind of plays in that regard. And I love the theater of the mind, and I love just being able to just sit down with your friends and play a game for a few hours, embrace your inner superhero. Sorry, I dropped my phone a little bit there. Embrace your inner superhero and just have a good time. So I don't really have a lot to talk about this week. I got back to work this week, and it was good. It was fine. I definitely like. It was good to be back, but it was also a little rough because there's a lot of rust I have to kick off because I haven't been at work in about 4 months. That being said, what's kind of interesting is I've almost hit my 1 year mark with the company, which is it's kind of weird insofar as like it doesn't really feel like it's been a year because the pandemic shut us down for 4 months, but it's still it's still there, and I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen with the courts, because eventually they're going to have to get back in session, and we're going to have a lot of work we have to go through to the courts. But we'll see. My manager wants me to transition to work from home soon, which I'm not opposed to necessarily, but I'm also not super fond of it. I'm not great at working from home. I'll be fully honest on that. I've never been a great home worker. I guess that's not really the right term, but I've never been great when I have like a home office working from home because I always have other things that seem to be more pressing than whatever I'm working on right there. And it kind of bounces back. We're like, okay, I need to do this. No, I need to do this. No, I need to focus on the work here. But then something else pops up, and maybe I have to take like a 5 minute break from work to go do something around the house. And that's not good. It's not a good way to work. Now, like if I get transitioned to work from home full time, then I'll be okay because I'll be able to just buckle down and just work on it. But I'm definitely more of an office worker. But I mean, we'll see what COVID has in store. Like truly, I mean, no one knows when the courts are going to open up. No one really knows when the pandemic's going to end. Like there's been some signs of in certain states the curve has flattened and cases are going down, Massachusetts being one of them. But then there are cases like Texas, Florida, and Ohio, which don't have those cases going down and have had a sharp uptick. And there's just no way of knowing how the country's going to go. And it's an election year, so assume Joe Biden wins the presidency. There's going to be a massive change with our virus response there. Assuming Donald Trump wins, there's still going to be a lot of changes for how he's going to handle the virus. And there's just so much up in the air right now that I'm a little skeptical that courts are really going to go like full in for several months. But we'll see. Like, I am definitely not a fortune teller. I can't predict how this is going to be, but we'll see what happens. So, Tony, my question for you is what advice would you give to someone who's never played Masks before? Because I know you really enjoyed it. So, what would you give? What advice would you give them? Because you seem to be really into it, and I'm really curious to think how a first time player, what they would say to someone who hadn't played before to kind of give them an idea of what it is. So, Tony, I'll see you on Wednesday. Later, bro.